Evan was the funnest kid around. He was a three-sport athlete, had incredible amounts of energy, just loved to play. He was one of those people who just lit up a room.
I have 4 kids, all obviously near and dear to my heart. There was something different about Evan from day one. The color of his hair, the color of his eyes. He just was so much fun.
He was so happy, so fun, always just the kindest kid, always trying to get everyone else involved in playing. Just a joy to have in your life.
Boy, in his 9, almost 10 years, he packed a lot of life into it, and people absolutely adored him. He had just gotten out of swim practice, was having headachy kind of things, and then we got him in the car and he had that seizure. We went to Mission Hospital. I knew something was seriously wrong immediately from the doctors and nurses there. We were transported to CHOC in the middle of the night, where we then on May 1st found out at the end of the day that Evan was diagnosed with this horrific metabolic genetic disease called adrenoleukodystrophy. We learned that there was no treatment, there was no cure, that he would be dead in 6 to 12 months, and not only that, it would be a horrific death. And I remember turning to Mary on one side of me and saying, "You're quitting school." And I turned to my husband on the other side of me and I said, "You're quitting work." And I said, "We're playing with Evan until he can't play anymore." And that's how we went to bed that night. May 2nd, they came to us and they said, "You might want to consider taking Evan to the University of Minnesota, where they're treating these late diagnosed boys with bone marrow transplant." And in the midst of no hope whatsoever, we now had hope. Initially, for all patients diagnosed with a disease that needs to be treated by bone marrow transplant, 30% of the time there's a brother or sister that matches them. So a sibling match is where they look to first. Well, we quickly found out another week or 2 later that we didn't have that match. We learned that we had to now look for a stranger. Like 70% of patients, somebody who now sits on the registry willing to give my son life. But it got a little more complicated because Evan's disease was progressing so quickly. With every seizure he was having, he was losing his vision and his ability to hear. And we had to get him to transplant quickly. So we couldn't look to a live donor like you and I because they had to be identified. Are they willing and able? Are they healthy enough? We didn't have that kind of time. So we then learned about the National Marrow Donor Program and the public cord blood bank. And 1 week later, we got notice that we had 2 matches for Evan.
We, thought that this terminal diagnosis maybe wasn't so terminal. And my mom and I went out to Minnesota with Evan for 6 months.
He got 10 days of chemo and radiation. And on June 27th, 2007, he got those cord bloods infused into his system in a simple blood donation.
And the transplant was a success. It stopped the progression of his disease and it looked like we were gonna, get out of this okay. Unfortunately, because of the bone marrow transplant, his immune system was compromised and he ended up getting a secondary infection that took his life.
I went to Minnesota on the Fight for Evan Stop ALD campaign. And when I flew home on his birthday without him, I didn't know what kind of campaign I was on. I honestly didn't know how I was gonna get out of bed every day. So over the next course of the several weeks, I sat in my bed, contemplating my life, and made a decision that I was going to do something amazing because of my vibrant boy, and that was going to be to save lives in his honor. I'm telling you, it was God and Evan together that made the decision to give me something really big because they knew I needed something serious. And it kind of all came to fruition very slowly. My husband one day said, "Well, what about being here? I'll become a donor." And I said, "That's it." And initially I knew, what that was going to look like because I had to raise awareness to the National Marrow Donor Program and the Be the Match Registry. But things got building and I thought, well, wait a minute. How do I talk about these things and not talk about that cord blood that saved his life? And then, what about the blood donation, the dozens of blood transfusions he needed during transplant that saved his life? And we all have the potential to need blood in our lifetime. And then, what about that pink dot that I've had on my license since I was 16 years old? Because of Evan and because of the journey our family's been on, I want to make sure that everyone has hope.
While Evan was being treated at the University of Minnesota, we were able to stay at the local Ronald McDonald House. While we were there, I always saw a little boy wandering around the kitchen. He had to be about 1.5 at the time, and didn't really know his story. I knew that he had a nose tube, so he was obviously the patient of the family, but didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until the end of our time in Minnesota with Evan that I actually found out that his name is Dominic Lawson, and he had been born at 28 weeks of pregnancy with poorly functioning kidneys. A year after his birth, his mother donated her kidney to him, and unfortunately, 3 weeks later, he rejected her kidney. And because of that, he was 1 year old, living without kidneys, and had, antibodies so that only 3% of the country would be eligible to donate to him.
3% of the nation, and they told his family that they did not feel that he would be able to survive dialysis long enough to find that match through Donate Life?
As soon as I found all of this out, I emailed his mom and said, I want to get involved. I have no idea what it means to donate your kidney or how you go about that, but I'd love to get some information. And her initial reaction was obviously gratitude, but she told me that I needed to wait and I needed to grieve my brother, which is incredibly selfless of her to be able to say, considering her situation at the time. So I did that, and 3 months later I got tested, and a week later I got the call, Mary, you're completely compatible. You're as perfect a match as a twin would have been. And I was in shock. I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, yeah, oh my gosh is right. It's incredible. I didn't second guess once I'd made up my mind on it. It seems like such an easy way to honor Evan. And I saw the Lawsons every day, and I knew that they were searching for this donor, just like we'd been searching for a donor for Evan's transplant. And I knew that I could be a match for him, and it was a no-brainer. I have the opportunity to stop this family from going through what we're going through.
If this was not put in front of us for a reason, I can't tell you why it was put in front of us. Obviously, that Mary was the one. And that how do you say, no way can you donate? We already lost one child. I could have easily done it. I knew there was no risk to her. I knew that they were going to make sure that she was going to be fine. And I knew that because of Evan and our journey, that we learned that we could give life. And here was our first opportunity to save life, with Mary giving her kidney to Dominic.
I flew out to Minnesota, and on May 21st, I went to the transplant center and was able to see Dominic and his family a little bit before they brought me into surgery, which was just amazing to see him and tell him I loved him and how excited I was to do this for him. And 5 hours later, I woke up. I was actually able to see Dominic the day after my surgery, and he was recovering faster than I was totally sitting up in bed playing, wanting to drink and eat. Because he was so little, my kidney actually bulged a little bit out of his stomach, and the doctor just placed my hand, and I could feel the outline of this gift that I had given to him, which was incredible.
Our logo is the Recycle logo, but it's bodies. That's why we call it Recycle Guys. I mean, what a concept that you can recycle your body. Well, what's that mean? Well, blood donation. You regenerate your blood in 4 to 6 weeks. Every 56 days, you can give blood product. Save 3 lives in less than 1 hour of your time. Only 5% of people nationwide who are eligible to donate do it. And in Orange County, Southern California, only 2 to 3%. When we talk about the National Marrow Donor Program and the Be the Match registry, paperwork and a cheek swab, 4 Q-tips. They take your DNA, throw it into a laboratory, put you onto the registry, and every day 6,000 people are potentially searching for their match. The chances of you ever matching somebody is like winning the lottery. So we can also recycle our body through Donate Life California. Super easy to get involved. When you go to the DMV, you can check the box that says, yes, I want to donate my organs. Even better for you to do, because that pink dot on a lot of our driver's licenses is stuck on. We need to make sure it's stuck. And you can do that by going to donatelifecalifornia.org. And in 2 minutes, literally, you can make the decision to give everything, to only give some things, whatever is best for you. And then you're able to email your loved ones so that they know and that they realize that in the midst of their own family's agony, that they are going to prevent other families from suffering the way they did. And that's the bottom line here. Nobody expects it. We didn't expect it 2 years ago. Yet now, because of our journey with Evan, we now can empower people with information and make sure that we all have hope by recycling our bodies. Every single day I get to talk about Evan. Every day I get to tell his story. And every day, because of him, we're doing amazing things. Now we'll be able to share our story with Orange County and allow you to get involved too.